2022 Carry Optics National Stage Breakdowns. Let's go ahead and start with Stage 1. Let's watch it first. Alright, so as you can see, it's a 2-string of fire course, 1 shot, reload, strong hand, 2nd string, 1 shot, reload, weak hand. Nothing too crazy or fancy, it's kind of just testing some fundamentals and how much you've been practicing strong hand, weak hand. I started on the right side because I wanted to get all what I considered the more difficult shots with my freestyle hand, with 2 hands honestly. That's why I kind of shot these 4 in the middle moving with 2 hands, kind of. So this one over here and these 4 kind of coming across in the position, getting a good solid plant right here, doing the reload, and then drop it to either hand, and that way I could take this head box and this no shoot from a standing position and then start moving on the tucks and the slasher. These 2 targets were the ones I thought were the most difficult. The tucks and the slasher, because they had all of the A visible, I really wanted to treat them like an open target and not as a tux and a slasher. And so I was like, I feel confident in using my one-hand ability to move slightly on those, moved a little bit more on the slasher, and then it's just a quick trip down to the end and shooting the 2 rest of the targets. Like I said, nothing real fancy about this one, but a lot of people were starting over here on this left side and kind of just taking all these planted on with 2 hands, running down to the end, and coming back planting again. And I really wanted to just kind of soak up some of that shooting, or soak up some of that moving while I was shooting, which it did help because I ended up being about 1.5 to 2 seconds faster raw time than most of the other Super Squad. But hits weren't the best. Got 6 Charlies, 1 Delta. I believe the Delta was coming off my left hand string on the 2nd target at the end. But 100% stage win, so can't ask for too much more than that. Stage 2, not much on this one, but let's watch it. So, not much to say, honestly, other than just tracking the A zones on these. Just really getting a good defined aiming point with your eyes that your gun that you lead your gun to on each one of these targets, even though the middle one is kind of hidden. You know where the A zone is going to be, and so you can kind of be pre-aiming it. And so as soon as that clamshell comes down, you're starting your 3 shots on it, and then move on to the other one. It really didn't matter which way you shot, left or right. I wanted to kind of incorporate my double action pull on this open guy, and kind of shoot him a little bit faster, and then just finish out. Big thing I saw a lot of guys was where they would draw, then they would take a step, and then they would start shooting. And I really wanted to try to incorporate that step onto the stomp pad in my draw stroke to make it a little bit smoother, and of course decrease the time overall. And ended up getting a decent time. It was about middle of the pack of everybody else. That all alphas really helped, and ended up getting 4th overall on this one. Stage 3, a little bit of a hiccup on this stage, but let's watch it first. Alright, so I'm going to say 2 hiccups on this stage. First hiccup was falling out of position and having to pick my foot up real quick and shoot an extra shot. And then second oopsie was going to be shooting 4 shots on this paper, and I think still only getting Alpha Charlie on it. But unloaded start, all mags on the table. This was kind of split either way of people shooting the slasher and popper off the go, or if they would come to the corner and shoot their way out. It really didn't make too much of a difference. It was kind of just on preference. The times were about the same either way. I felt like I could take a step back, shoot these 2 and the double stack through the port without moving, and then immediately transition to an open target while walking into this corner. So transition, not moving, moving on the open guy here, then taking popper, hard cover, and then moving out of position. Now I did plan on taking this popper and this hard cover actually leaning and be finishing up this paper almost leaning out of position, drop stepping, grabbing a mag, and going. What ended up actually happening was I missed my first shot on the steel, so I actually had to throw a makeup, and I was already too far into my lean to catch myself for the makeup, so I actually fell out of position, had to pick my foot up one more time to shoot the last shot on the paper, and then grab mag and get out of that position. Ended up costing me probably about a second or two, if I had to guess on it. It's just one of those things where if I could have respected that target just a little bit more, it would have been worth it. It's kind of the risk reward. Where do you think you can gain a couple tenths here and there? And this one just ended up biting me in the butt. But 9 out of 10 times, could I do it? Possibly. 7 out of 10 times, possibly. It just kind of is one of those things. Definitely, if you're wanting to take reward risks in matches, do it. If you're a very, very conservative shooter, then don't. It's just kind of preference on it. I like taking risks and kind of taking those big gambles sometimes. Sometimes they pay out, sometimes they don't. It is what it is. Weird little step. Reload. 3 shots on that guy coming in here. Clean hits on these. 2 alphas on the swinger. 4th shot on this guy. I think I ended up with like 2 alphas on this guy. I think. But, and then finish out on this bar guy over here. Wasn't the best execution. I think stage plan still decent. Probably would have taken my time a little bit on that popper and hardcover that I fell out of position at. But it is what it is. You win some, you lose some. Stage 4. Let's watch it first. Alright, so I was actually first up on my squad for this stage, so I really didn't get to watch, or I didn't get to watch anybody else shoot it. So I was kind of just, I was stuck to my game stage plan. There was no change in it, so I went in with that mindset. Hey, this is my stage plan. I have to shoot it efficiently and effectively to actually get a good score, and not worrying about other people's stage plans kind of as during the walkthrough. This one really required good sight pictures. This was an all steel stage and had lots of mini poppers out at 15-ish, 20, about 15 yards probably. So not the farthest distances, but then little poppers will eat your lunch some days if you're not diligent with them and respect them enough with the good crisp dot in the centers, good grip, and then slap a trigger. But other than sight pictures on this one, keeping the gun up, coming into port, shooting early as much as possible, effective as it exits, don't blow the reload running across. There really wasn't anything to mess up other than just the straight fundamentals. It was kind of just a test of how well can you perform the fundamentals under stress, and ended up doing decently on this stage. Had a couple makeups that cost me maybe a half to 3/4 of a second overall, probably about a second overall. I think fastest raw time was in the low 19s, so I was just about a second off that pace. Probably wouldn't change my stage plan looking back, because I was the first shooter. I hadn't watched anybody else kind of do it, and so I was comfortable. This was more of a conservative plan to make sure I could see everything, and overall was pretty happy with it. Stage 5. Let's watch it real quick. Alright, so pretty short little stage. Unloaded start, gun on the table. Just about as simple as that. I did not see anybody go to the right first. I think everybody went to the left first. I think that was kind of just the way to play it. There was two different ways you could do this. You could step into this box and shoot your way in, how I did it, or you could actually go to the deep corner and shoot your way out. This was a pretty, in my opinion, it was about a medium lean, and so I didn't really feel comfortable shooting out of position. And if I did, I only felt like I could probably get maybe a step and a half to 2 steps out of position, so that really wouldn't have pushed me closer to this port. Plus, that would have been 1 or 2 steps where I would not have been shooting when I first entered the box. And so I felt like it was a little bit better to kind of, as soon as you get in the box, start shooting this open guy, kind of absorb that double action, then go no shoot, open, no shoot, and kind of be prepping for this no shoot to be dropping out of position, do the drop step, run into this low port, get the gun up and out as soon as possible on the low shoot, quick squat, throw 2, and be booking it out of position as fast as possible. Shoot, drop step out, get out, and then the key here too on this one was not shooting as soon as you saw the target. You kind of wanted to wait until you were a couple feet off this line to be shooting, because you didn't want to turn this corner, immediately shoot these 2, take a shuffle step, and shoot this last guy. So what I like to do in a situation like this, I'll actually go to the fault line, present on him, and I'll actually kind of walk backwards and guesstimate how long it's going to take me to shoot these 2. And I kind of roughly figured it was going to be about right here, which is where I'm starting to shoot. So that way, whenever I finish on this no shoot, I'm immediately in position and I can see this open guy, and it's not taking me forever to get that last transition in. Pretty well came into this last position a little hot. As you can see, I'm like on tiptoes right now. Could have slowed that down just a hair, but wasn't awful. I was able to just kind of barely maintain control of it. Ended up with 3rd overall on this one. Pretty happy with it. Hit saved me on it because my time wasn't the fastest, but it was up there. But 3 Charlies is real good for sure for me. Stage 6. Alright, short and sweet again. This whole zone was kind of just short stages. There really wasn't too many long field courses, but this was the last stage of Zone A, which will be the last stage of my 2nd day of shooting. Great stage overall. Got a 100% stage win on this one, and didn't do anything too fancy or crazy on it. Just shot smooth and fundamentally sound. There's a couple different ways you can run this one. I run this stage. Some people like to go immediately to the port and kind of shoot their way back out to this position. Some people kind of did a mixture of that. I like taking this big step off the draw, which is something I practice in dry fire a lot. It's just like that first step movement out of the draw. So I was comfortable getting to this stance way over here, shooting these 2, and then from this position I actually can see through the port this slasher or hardcover through the port, and then take this open guy as I kind of lean forward, take a big step, start my transition to the activator through the port as I'm finishing up my step and I'm getting planted. Then it's activator, paper, no shoot, bobber. But didn't want to bring the gun down at all. Wanted to keep the gun up the entire time because I'm always wanting to be shooting, and wanted to go ahead and be looking to the next target even though I'm not fully in position. So as soon as I come off this target, shoot the hardcover, open target, I want to be finding that popper as soon as I can. Open, I'm already looking there. Like I'm not even in position yet, but I have gun trained on the popper. I'm ready to shoot it. If I saw good sight confirmation, I was going to let one rip right there before I was even in position. So right there, see, I let one rip, hit it, my first shot, and I'm just now settling my right foot. Go to the open target, which is a little bit farther. A little bit more visual patience probably needed for it. So I'm planted, 2, no shoot, bobber. Overall, it was good. Really happy with the 2 Charlies on this one, but I just wanted to shoot it smooth. If I could have shot this stage smooth, I know I was going to have a great time. And then the only thing I'm worried about was what my dot was telling me and where I could work to get those alphas. But overall, great stage. And that was the wrap of day 2. Stage 7. This was first stage of the last day. That's going to be zone B. Let's watch it real quick. Alright, so this was kind of nice to finally have a large field course to shoot instead of the little bitty speed shoots. So I think it was a 32 round field course. Finally got to stretch the legs a little bit, do a little bit of sprinting, and very enjoyable. So the main point of interest on this stage was this dropout right here. No shoot right here, target behind it, and this popper here activates that piece of contraption. So there was lots of different ways to run this one. Some people were running immediately forward, shooting all this, coming around the port, coming back way over here, shooting some stuff. Some people would off the draw, take a step, and shoot like this little bitty 4-inch top from that guy through the port from like 30 yards. Some people would shoot from the back, go to the port, come there. So there's lots of different ways to run this one. I wanted to get as many hits as quickly as possible and kind of just shoot into my strengths. And I like shooting on the move as much as possible. And I generally have a fast fellow sprinting, so I knew I could soak up some of that time. And so my stage plan was going to be off the draw. I'm going to take these two as soon as I'm backing up and try to get those two within maybe my first steps or two. Immediately come to this back corner here and be shooting to this open paper. So I'm stationary after I shoot him, shooting the no shoot, and then I am looking at every cell in my body is sprinting as hard as I can to this point. I'm going to break down right here, shoot these two guys, and I didn't do a great job of it, but I wanted to shoot these two and literally just be like a small little shuffle and finish up this last guy. I kind of wanted to make this whole, these 3 targets here, one kind of array. So it's not just like shoot 2, move a little bit, shoot another one. I kind of wanted to just make it one smooth array. Also, I wanted to favor this right side right here next to this wall. So I had a clean, open presentation on him. And then after those 3, I wanted good, crisp dots on these far targets. I think these were closer to 20 to 23 yards, mini poppers. Lots of people were struggling with those and having lots of makeups. Fortunately, I only had 1 makeup on those on my first one. I rushed my first shot and I was like, okay, slow down, and then finished out the rest of it clean. So that was well. I enjoyed that. Got those. Nice little reload. I have no clue why, but I decided to grab this stick and do a little slingshot. Actually, came around this corner a little too hot and actually had to do a little reverse lean coming into the port. Came into the port with the open target, shot the head box of the activator, no problem. And then that's where things stopped going well. This popper there, right here, this guy I could not hit to save my life or anything. So you saw me just throw one shot there, rushed it for sure off to the left, open target. So my plan was to shoot this open target as I'm taking a step back to kind of come to this last position. And I did that, but also I knew I threw that miss, so I had to make it up. So I ended up throwing 2 more shots, so a total of 3 shots at that steel. First makeup, thought it was it. I called a good shot, didn't fall, so I immediately had to throw another one up there, and I made sure I had good sight confirmation for that one. But just because things went bad, that doesn't mean I get to stand still. I knew in my mind that from this position I had to end up here. And so even though I'm having makeup shots on the steel, I'm still trying to walk back as much as possible. Still walking. And so as soon as I know that, I know I'm coming to this position. I'm shooting the open target right here and finishing up on this last guy. And you see me come back and throw 1 more shot on this guy. And you can see that's my makeup. I have a Charlie and 2 Charlies right here. And this was one of my makeup shots. So I made up a Charlie with a Charlie. So it just didn't turn out to be great. But I really loved my stage plan. I don't think I would change the stage plan for anything. I would just be a little bit more visually patient on that steel. Happy with my footwork. Nothing crazy about that. Reload was fine, but man, if it would have been close. Thankfully my time saved me on this stage. Just the speed of everything else, so I didn't lose too much time compared to all the rest of the guys. Even though I had several makeups on this deal, I was still right there in the ballpark. 7 Charlies would have been okay. I would have liked that to have been a little cleaner. That target needed to have been 2 alphas 100%, but just rushed it because I was too busy focusing. Hey, I need to push because I had missed this deal so many times, and so that just ended up me taking 2 Charlies there. But overall, it wasn't an awful way to start the last day, but it wasn't great either. Stage number 8. Let's watch it. Okay, another little speed shoot. Nothing too crazy. So, coming into this stage, I still hadn't fully gotten the last stage 7, the one we just went over, out of my head. I was still kind of just, man, that was so close to greatness, but I didn't get it. And so I hadn't fully cleansed my mind and just said, hey, this is a new stage, a new match right here. And so I was still kind of thinking about that. So I didn't shoot this one as efficiently as I should have, and just wasn't in that right mindset. But stage plan, shoot paper over here, or this little hard, I think it was a hardcover or a tux right here, and then back out on the open guy. There are 2 pieces of steel right here in front of me that you could have taken. I thought it was more beneficial to get out of this position as soon as possible instead of taking the steel from here, because you can still see the steel from the end, and I just really wanted to prioritize getting out of the position and getting to the port as soon as possible. Got out of that position decently. Don't know why I grabbed the pole here again. My plan on the port right here was to kind of stay maybe an arm's length or 2 back, so I can literally just kind of shift my body weight and I can see both these slashers A boxes through the port instead of having to be all up in the port and have like a long shuffle step to see the other one. I stayed a little bit further back, and that helped to kind of shoot it all in one array like that. As soon as I'm done with that, I'm running to the corner to shoot everything else. Came in the corner a little hot, as you can see, and had to catch myself in between my splits. Took my foot back in and finished out the rest of it. I think I threw a makeup on one of these targets. Wasn't awful. The 2 Charlies really helped me because my time wasn't the best from just overrunning that position out there and just not being in that headspace of ready to shoot the stage, honestly. But overall, it wasn't terrible. Definitely could have been better, though. Stage 9. Alright, so this one's a little different than the rest of them. This was actually a fixed time stage at, I believe it was 4.5 seconds was the fixed time. So definitely something new. Don't come across those very often, and don't train those at all, honestly. So you had to get your mind right about that one. But so you start on this left side of the box. You had to be completely outside of you had to be outside the starting box, straddling this left fault line. So there really wasn't too many different ways to shoot it. 3 on this side, 3 on that side. You can see this bar guy from either side. So some people elected to take a real big first step, shoot the 3 on the right, and then come back and finish up on these 2 and shoot him from this side. Honestly, it really didn't matter how you shot it. It's just personal preference, really. But out of the draw, it was a awful grip. It was the worst grip of the match so far. And I was like, oh gosh, I have to shoot fast because you have the fixed time, and I have awful grip. I was like, man, I'm just trying to save myself on this stage, and it just didn't work. Plain and simple. Ended up throwing 6 Charlies and 2 Deltas and only 4 Alphas. So I had so many drop points. And due to fixed time, no amount of going fast was going to save me. So with the grip, I was thinking about my hands and not thinking about my dot. I actually had trigger freeze on this target, only threw one at it the first time, finished that over here, and thankfully had enough time to come back and throw the last one, thankfully. But it would have been a no penalty mic anyway, But overall, wasn't great at all. It was very, very haphazardly and just rushed due to that poor grip. But yeah. All right, stage 10. Finally, another big course. Let's watch it. Alright, so overall decent. That reload just pains me to watch and just standing there. But okay, that's alright. That was definitely the worst thing on the stage. That might have cost me maybe 3/4 to a second. But ended up still getting 6th overall. It was a fun stage. There's a couple different ways you could shoot this. There was people off the draw going to the right. A lot of people did that. Not too many people that I saw went left, but it was just personal preference on how you wanted to shoot them. Mainly it was, do you want to reload going forward or have like a weird reload going backwards if you went to the right first. But if you're comfortable doing it, there's no like different order of how to shoot the targets really. It was the same 4 positions. You can elect to shoot this little mini popper from this position or from the end. I elected to shoot it from the end because I kind of wanted to just get out of this position as fast as possible. That's why I kind of shot this one target, basically moving the entire time right here. So feet were never planted. Was a little too high. Kind of stayed up on my tiptoes. I kind of wanted to be a little bit lower on that, and then have a smoother exit. You see my feet were in a position, and then I actually switched feet to move. So that kind of that took a little bit of extra time that wasn't needed. But there were some far shots on there, so you wanted to make sure you had good shot calling ability and just call them good alphas and not have makeups. You wanted to take that extra maybe 0.05 to 1/10 of a second on each target to confirm you're going to have double alphas on that on each one, instead of throwing that extra 0.2 of a second, 0.3 of a second makeup. Just kind of being efficient with that and having a good sight picture, good grip, and slap the trigger. So come to this position. Awful reload. There's a popper, I think 1 paper over here, and then 2 right here. I really wanted to be at least picking a foot up on these 2 pieces of paper. I always like to think about how I'm entering and exiting every single position. And like on last targets or on first targets, I generally will have 1 foot on the ground coming in or going out unless that target demands it. If I'm coming in on a popper at 25 yards, yeah, I'm probably going to have both feet down, versus if I'm coming in on the open or I'm leaving on the open at 7 yards, I'm going to be moving at some time, just because I can have that efficiency and just kind of take that time where you can. But popper, paper, and see, I'm barely picking up that foot as I'm shooting that last shot. Bam. As soon as that shot goes, breaking the gun down, my eyes are going to my next point where I'm looking, which is going to be that corner of that fault box that I'm finding. Coming in the fault box, so I'm still out of position, but my gun's already coming up on target. I'm staring at that A zone. As soon as that left foot gets picked up on the ground, I'm already firing a shot. Left foot still on the ground. I'm starting to fire. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3 big poppers right here. So you could kind of lose a whole lot of time if you didn't take just enough amount of time to be efficient and have a good sight picture on these 3 targets. I saw some people burn these 3 down on first go. I saw some people struggle with them. So I was like, I'm just gonna shoot them efficiently where I know I can hit them and not try to rush them, because I don't want to be throwing makeups here. Didn't shoot those terribly fast, didn't shoot those slow either. Transition off those to a far 20-yard paper, and then the last target of the stage was a mini popper at like 22 yards. And I liked ending on it better than shooting in one of those other positions, but I knew I couldn't start throwing makeups on this shot. And so I really had to, when I'm pressed for a shot like that, what I tell myself is, hey, I want to see that second sight picture so that I'm not breaking my grip mid-shot. Because I have a tendency sometimes, when it's my last shot, I'll actually like loosen up my grip on both hands not like where I'm letting go of the gun or nothing like that, but I'll just let it go and I'll have a sloppy trigger press and I'll throw that shot. And so what I'll tell myself to help me with that is I want to see that second sight picture. So you'll see me, I'll shoot, my gun will recoil, come back to that same point, and then I'll retract the gun. So boom, right there. So it might be a little, so right there I've already shot, gun's back in recoil, I'm staring at it. I hear the audible click, I called a good shot, and then I release the gun. So if I called a good shot, but I didn't hear the audible click and I'm not visually watching the popper go down, I was able to throw a second one. I just wanted to keep that gun out there until I knew for certain that that sucker was going to go down, and then I was going to bring the gun. A lot of fun. This was a fun stage for sure. I enjoyed it. It was a little bit of kind of positional shooting. There really wasn't too many places to shoot on the move, and so you kind of had to see how efficient you were coming and going on positions. But a lot of points available on this one. Lots of people were throwing some Charlies and Deltas on those far guys. So if you could shoot some distance real accurately, you're gonna do well on this stage. 6th overall at 93%. I hit my metric of the 90% I want, so I was happy with it. Stage 11. Alright, so 2 bigger hiccups on this stage, but we'll get to those. So 2 trains of thought for this stage. You had to start down here. You could either go to the port, shoot popper. Well, from this port, we'll start with this one. Most everybody was taking this popper or this activator over here first, and then going paper, big popper, paper, and then there's a small one behind it or some combination thereof. Shot the paper, transitioned to the big popper. I was like, oh, it's a big popper, it's close. I don't have to have that much respect for it. Well, ended up I needed more respect for it because I threw my first shot. And because there's a popper behind it, that was meant I was going to just sit there and watch it fall. So I ended up throwing like 3 or 4 shots at this big guy to really hammer the thing down, and then shooting that small one just about as soon as I could see that head box, and then getting out of position because I know I'm already behind the clock at that point. So coming to this position, you're going to come in on popper. There's going to be a swinger, which is completely open on both directions of the swing. It's a hardcover with a lot of A's still available. So come in on popper, swinger, open guy. I really wanted to, you kind of had to shift with this port to see everything. So that being said, I wanted to use my shift to be running to this back position. So when I transition to this open guy, I want to pick a foot up, start moving it back as much as I can to kind of be leaving as I'm shooting it. Leaving, doing a reload, trying to get it done within my first step or 2, and then running back to this far corner here. Not the straightest path, but it was decent. I think you go open paper, no shoot, and then immediately I wanted to transition to this tux. I didn't want to bring the gun down. I didn't want to do a step. I wanted to stay completely stationary because I knew it was a harder shot, and go straight over to it. So right there, I want to throw 2 at it. I think I'm leaving on my second shot, and my second shot goes just an inch to half an inch inside the black right there. And thankfully I do call it, but I'm already mid-stride when I do call it. So I go tux, open, and then I'm like, okay, this is the best opportunity to go back to it, take a step back, and throw one more at it. Right there. Definitely cost me a good chunk of time, but it was well worth it instead of taking that mic. And then you go activator, popper, popper, and there's a little, I think a little slow swinger right here also. So not the most efficient stage I've ever run for sure. That popper in the beginning really killed me because I had to just watch that darn thing fall. Throwing this makeup when I was out of position to come back into it cost me a whole lot of time. And then my hits weren't great either. I was dropped 6 Charlies and 2 Deltas just because out of the gate I felt in my head I was rushed. And so I just constantly was thinking, okay, I have to rush, I'm already behind. And so when I'm thinking that, my hits are probably going to suffer because of it, because if I'm thinking about going fast, I'm probably going to have crappy hits, versus if I'm thinking about have good hits, I'm just naturally, just most of the time, smooth and efficient, and that leads to slower stage or shorter stage times. But definitely could have done better on this one. Stage 12. This was the last stage of the match for me. Let's watch it. Alright, so I'm going to be honest. My game plan going into this stage was don't screw it up. And that was it. Don't screw it up and get decent hits. And I didn't screw up, but I didn't get the best hits. But so this was the last stage, last day. And I just did not want to lose. I didn't want to lose it on the last stage, you know? Like I wanted to just go out consistent, how I'd been shooting that entire day. And so start in the middle right here. I think everybody was going left first, and everybody had the kind of same general stage plan. They might have changed up the target order in the same array, but it was generally pretty straightforward. Come to this left side right here, shooting on this open paper. Shoot 2 here. I think you can actually take one, if not both of these from the end. But since I'm having to take a target way over here, I thought it was negligible to just go ahead and take them here, because I'm already standing right here. I'm already shooting at far distance. And this far right here is actually a no-shoot. So that's why I take 3 shots at it. And I really, really aim and try to be as precise as I can on those 3 shots. And aim a little bit higher also. Because I was okay with throwing some Charlies out there, just because I know I did not want to get a no-shoot on the last stage. So shot those 3. Boom, shot that 3. Getting out of position, trying to get the reload done within the first step or 2. And I'm on step 2.5, 3. Reload's done. Coming to this corner, I wanted to shoot in on this open guy, kind of slow down momentum. Do a small hesitation, shoot this hard cover right here, and then explode back out on this open guy. And as soon as I am from this open guy, you actually transition to a far one that you can see first. Shoot him relatively moving slow. Shoot an open, I think it was a slasher right here, super, super close. So just hammer down, predictive pair, and then immediately transition from there. Go popper, take a half step if you can on this paper right here, and then see the bobber. Bobber's in full view, throw 2 at it. I didn't like my last shot. I actually saw the wood blow out on this backside, so I knew it was at least on paper, and I knew it was a delta. And if I would have recognized it maybe a couple tenths faster, I would have thrown a makeup, but I didn't recognize it until it was already on its downswing. And I'm like, oh crap, I just saw the wood fly, let me throw another shot. And I'm like, oh, let's not. And so I ended up taking the delta. That was my 1 delta right there. Wasn't awful. Definitely could have been more efficient on the hits and more efficient on the entries and exits, but last stage, last day, I was okay with ending it on this note instead of it being like a 2 no-shoots and a blown reload, something like that. So I shot this one a lot more conservative than I usually would have, but that was okay. Alright, so this is stage 13. This was the first stage I've shot at the match. First day. Let's see how she goes. Spoiler alert, it wasn't great.
Our buddy's been shooting NATO in his party.
Alright, so as I'm truthful, it was not great. Lots of different ways you can run this stage. I think just about every single person on the Super Squad shot this stage just a twinge differently than everybody else. I stole this stage plan from Garen Singleton. I think we had generally the same plan, but lots of people were starting running to this back corner. It's unloaded start on the barrel. It was a little bit raining, so you're watching the raindrops fall on your gun, so it's kind of messing with your mental stuff of trying to stay focused in the moment. But unload start, mags on your belt, buzzer goes off, grab the gun, reload as you're moving backwards. You have to be really mindful of the 180. Get to this back corner right here, and there's a target basically at right here, close to the 180 line, and then 170 degrees, 70 degrees the other way, there's a target here. And the walls were kind of constrictive, so you really couldn't move a lot on them. You can move a little bit, but not a lot. And so I was planted on this right side, transitioned over to the left side, and as you can see, I took that first step forward. I want to be moving at least a little bit to my next position as I shoot this next one. Coming to this position, it really wasn't it was kind of a crappy entry, honestly. I don't know why I'm breaking down all the way back here. The gun should already be out, but first stage of the day, super squad jitters, first stage jitters. It is what it is. So you can't be you can't be too critical of yourself on the first stage. Like, you're not going to be at your peak performance because you're cold. So my game plan most of the time coming in on the first stage of the day is to literally just shoot it smooth with as many alphas as possible. I'm not trying to get raw time hero on my first stage. I'm just trying to not die, basically. And I slightly did die because of the reload. We'll get to that. So paper. Thankfully, all these papers were open and relatively far. I think the longest shot was maybe 20 yards, so not terribly much. There's a few positions where you could shoot coming in and going out. There really wasn't lots of places to actually shoot and move. You kind of have this, I'm going to call it a medium port because it's not really a low port, but it's at least you have to squat to get to see the targets. That wasn't terrible. That kind of made life a little weird. You had people shoot here, go all the way to the corner, or like me, shoot to here, run across. There's lots of different ways you could swing it. It's kind of just personal preference on how you wanted to do it. But I shot some stuff over here. Wanted to reload, coming across. And so went to draw my first mag, and when I did that, for some reason, the first round on my magazine slid forward, where it was protruding from the front of the base pad, and I was like, crap. And so I had trouble getting it into the mag well of the gun, and when I eventually did go into the mag well of the gun, it actually came loose from the magazine and was in between the bottom of the slide and the magazine, so it was unable to seat the magazine. Well, I didn't know that, and so I slammed the mag home, presented out, and magazine fell down on the ground. So then I had to go to my backup magazine, slam that in, and continue the stage. And at that point, I'm like, crap, I've already lost. I think it was like a 3 to 4 second delay. And so I'm just trying to save my run at that point and just shoot as many alphas as I can. And didn't end the stage great. I think I was like maybe a couple inches out of position on here, but it wasn't killer. Well, the reload was killer, yes, but being out of position wasn't awful. So that's what it is. Not how you want your first stage to go, but at that point it was in the books and I couldn't do anything about it, so you had to kind of forget it, move on to the next stage. It really pays to have short memories in this game. No matter if you just bombed a stage or if you just had a stage win, you have to put that out of your head before you walk on to the next bay. Like, you have to forget it no matter what. Alright, this is stage 14. Had a little something new on this one also. This was actually a visual start stage. First time I've ever had that happen or appear or anything like that. But it was a little weird, but it wasn't awful. Let's watch it first. Alright, couple different ways to shoot this stage. I elected to off the light, not the buzzer, take this big step back, shoot this open paper kind of just off camera, and then come into port on this tux. This tux is real close, so I thought I was able to walk in on it. Then shoot some steel in the paper, come around to this corner over here, shoot the paper, no shoot, one far guy, run to the end. There was other people who would actually step immediately to the left and shoot everything over here, and then run back around and shoot from this point on the same as me. It really was just preference. I didn't think there was a major difference either way. One was reloading beneficial to right-handers, one was kind of fighting you. It really was, honestly, was just preference. I think going to the left might have been maybe a half second or a quarter second faster, but I mean that's negligible, honestly. If it's that close, it comes down to preference, honestly. And I felt more comfortable taking that big step off to the right and shooting that off the get-go. But what really killed me was this steel array right here. Did not respect this in the slightest, and just was throwing shots left and right at it, just throwing hopers, honestly. Came into the position on this tux right here, settled my right foot, and then shot, I think it was three or four paper steel. I mean, I had maybe 4 or 5 makeup shots on it, just could not hit him for the life of me. Costed me couple seconds for sure, just on that, on the extra transitions, the extra splits. I mean, it was awful. But finally got out of that position. Running out here, I wanted to kind of come in position. I wanted to wait till I got closer to the fault line before I shot this open guy. I didn't want to shoot him immediately then and then run up closer and shoot the no shoot. I kind of wanted to blend it into one position. I elected to go to the open, no shoot, and then out to this back of the berm target, and be taking this guy as I'm picking a foot up and leaving the position. So, oh dang it. So as I'm shooting, that far guy, my right foot's coming up, going to be coming out of position, so I'm already leaning my weight forward, so I'm getting ready to exiting the position. I finish my 2 shots, and boom, I'm gone. Drop a reload right here as soon as possible. Then I can drop that gun back behind me, so I'm not in any danger of breaking the 180. Guns down. Come into position. Now at this point I shift. I'm trying to turn my hips as much as possible away from the 180 so that I can present the gun sooner to the targets so I can shoot them earlier, but also I'm in no danger of breaking the 180 if I do that. Gun comes up immediately. I'm throwing 2 in this open target. I mean, I'm 3 yards, 4 yards away from this target. I'm smacking that trigger like it owes me money. Throwing 2 and 2 because this target is so close. And the A zone is fully exposed. I wanted to have the same splits on these 2 targets. I didn't want to have this big piece of black right here, like in any way, shape, or form, like scare me into not splitting it still fast. Immediately taking off these 2, and you're hitting another open slasher over here. And so after I take these 2 targets, I wanted to immediately transition to this open paper and use this as my setup target, and come into this last position and shoot this guy that you can barely see out there. A lot of people were shooting these 2, breaking the gun down, and then going to the corner and then shooting 1, 2. I really kind of wanted to incorporate that all together, so it's a little bit more efficient, less time wasted, and keeping the gun out the entire time. So immediately transition to that open guy. I'm already taking a step, shooting him coming in, and then you have a wall on this side and a hard cover, so you don't have to go as deep into this corner to see everything you need to see because you can't hit that anyway, so you only needed to see that A zone. So decent hits. I'm okay with 7 Charlies. It wasn't killer, but it wasn't just like a bomber run or nothing like that. The steel really was detrimental, but wasn't a death sentence stage, but definitely wasn't a win. Stage 15. This was awful. There ain't no better way to put this other than it was atrocious. This was the only penalties I received during the entire match on this stage. Let's watch the horror show. So I joke about it, but it is very truthful. I have a very hard time counting in recoil shots. It's something I have to practice and work on. So this was a Virginia count stage, and the procedure you went 4 shots on any 2 targets, reload 4 shots on the remaining 2 targets. Total of 4, 16, something like that, shots. But with Virginia count being it, you received a penalty if you had an extra shot or if you had an extra hit on the paper. So I drew to this target and shot 5, transitioned over here and shot 4, did a reload, which wasn't anything spectacular. It was a kind of a crappy reload. Shot 4 on this guy. Could have sworn that I shot only 3 shots. Transitioned to 4 here. Went back to this guy and threw a 5th shot, thinking it was only 4. So when all the hits were counted, I had an extra hit on this guy, extra hit on this guy, with 2 extra shots, totaling 4 penalties. Was not good at all. I mean, you can see right here, it's 35%. Thankfully, it wasn't just like a 150-point stage course. It was only, I don't know, math, 160. I think it was a 60 round. It was an 80-point stage. So it wasn't. I definitely lost, I think, close to 70 to 60 points. I think it was 50 or 60 points on this stage. I don't know. I lost lots of points on it. Let's say that. Wasn't great at all. But this is where that short-term memory has to come into play. You have to be able to forget this stage by the time you walk on to this point right here. You have to forget it, drop it, learn to move on, because the moment you're done shooting, you cannot change one thing. It is over, done, you are out of control of it, and you have to live with it. And so you have to be able to put that out of your mind before you shoot the next one. Stage 16, a little run and gun action. Let's watch it. All right, pretty quick little stage. Nothing too crazy. This was the stage to move around a little bit while you shoot. Had a little bit of trigger freeze on this target. I was kind of just overly hyped and wanting to shoot a little quicker than I could, and I ended up having probably a 3/4 of a second trigger freeze on this one. Finally got off 2 shots on it, moved to this guy. There was some difference in the order of some of these. Some people took the 2 left ones first, and then everything on the right. Some people took only these 2, then the left, and then came back to this guy. It honestly just boiled down to preference and minimal transitions. You wanted to keep these large sweeping transitions to a minimum and as much as possible. But with that also being said, you want it to flow and be smooth as possible, because these 2 targets disappear really quickly. I think this one disappears relatively quickly, and so you wanted to keep that in mind. So I was okay with it doing. I think I had 1 extra transition than most other people, but that allowed me to never break my stride and have a hesitation step and come back for an extra shot. I was able to just flow the whole way down into this port, thankfully. Pretty decent reload. I was happy with it. You kind of wanted to get this reload done and be set up to be taking these shots. I rushed this guy and actually missed it. So there's actually 2 small poppers behind these 2 large ones. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 2 small ones. So you kind of want to shoot left to right, and then come back to them until these fall. I ended up missing this one, so I think I came back to the big popper, then the small one, and then I was staring at the very, very tip of that popper until I could see the one behind it, and then shot it. Ended up doing decently, even through the mistakes, thankfully. Dropped 1 Charlie and 1 Delta on this one, and sat 5th overall at 97. So I was pretty pleased with it. Definitely coming off the stage before this one, I was okay to have this run. Stage 17. Alright, so this was a quick little shoot. However, there was several different games plans being discussed. So I elected to shoot 2 targets on the move and then sprint to the end and finish out. You had some guys who shot everything from the back. You had some guys who shot these 2 targets and then shot diagonal to this side corner over here. There was lots of different ways you shoot it. If you were a more accurate, faster long-range shooter, you take everything back. If you think you could soak up some of your time shooting as you move and you sprint quick, you ran to the front. It kind of just boiled down to preference. I think the times favored running down to the front overall, and that's how the majority of the Super Squad shot it, I believe. But that's just how some people shoot, I guess. But so I took 2 shots. They're 2 paper, this paper and this paper. And my plan of doing that was I wanted to shoot this guy as moving as possible. I wanted to be getting out of this position and immediately transition to this corner paper. So that paper right there is the one I'm currently shooting at. I wanted to shoot him as soon as possible from this guy. Lots of guys were shooting this paper here, running to about here, then shooting this target, and then continuing their sprint. And I just felt like it wasn't as efficient as if I were to just shoot it directly after this one, so I never had to break my sprints twice. I could just continue to sprint all the way down here, so I didn't have to slow down, shoot some, and then speed back up again. I was just speeding up the entire way down to the corner. Got to the end of the corner, several yards out, and broke it down and shot open, no shoot, open, no shoot. But with all the talks of shooting distance and how accurate and quick you are versus how fast can you run, I really didn't prioritize accurate placement shots. I was like, oh yeah, I'm a fast guy. I can sprint down there. And that led to me not focusing on accuracy. And so that's why I dropped 4 Charlies and 2 Deltas. So I had 50-50 alphas and others. Dropped way too many points. My time wasn't nothing to write home about or anything like that. And so I didn't do the best I could on this stage just because my mindset wasn't there. You know, I wasn't thinking shoot good alphas and the time will be there. I was thinking I have to push. Thankfully I got shots on paper, but sometimes you just do crappy because your head's not in the game. But it is what it is. Stage 18, nice little activator sequence stage. This was a little different. You actually only were required 1 shot on each paper. Let's watch it. So as you can see, I messed it up big time. The order on this was shoot steel left to right, and then swinger, max strap, bobber, swinger. It worked out beautifully if you did that. I think raw time was somewhere in the ballpark of 4 seconds, so I was, I think, just over 1.5 seconds off that. Ended up missing this popper, I think, like 3 or 4 times, honestly. Somehow, luckily, I was able to scrape together a decent performance after that. Nothing to write home about, but it just wasn't sitting there staring at each individual activator or bobber at the position. So I think I did the bobber, activator, miss, activator, miss, activator, miss, swinger, hit, bobber, swinger, something up there. For let's watch what I did. Yeah, so I was like, miss, come back around, miss, swinger, bobber, or swinger, activator, bobber, swinger, and then I was just staring right there at it, waiting for it to go down, waiting, throw one, But it is what it is. Sometimes the activator sequence, sometimes like if you mess up, you're guaranteed plus a second or two. Like that's just kind of how it is on those stages. And if you mess up, you're kind of just struggling to stay alive. Didn't just completely bomb the stage. Didn't do great either. It is what it is. Sometimes you miss the steal. Definitely would have, looking back, had more visual patience. Thankful for the all alphas though. That really helped. If I would have had that same stage plan and dropped deltas here and there, it would have been way much more killer. But the alphas did save me a little bit. All right, last stage of the match. This was actually the last stage I shot on the first day. So really didn't have a great performance the entire first day, and just kind of wanted to go out on a good note and put together a nice smooth run. But let's watch it. Alright, so on the matchbook, it was advertised that this was going to be a Cooper's tunnel, and a Cooper's tunnel is a very similar visually thing than this, but these rungs, if you bump them or move them or knock them off, you actually are awarded a penalty. This was not a Cooper's tunnel, thankfully. This was just a straight tunnel, and so these things were screwed down so you couldn't move them, but it did require you to shoot minimum of 2 positions, this port and this port, from a kneeling position. There's 3 targets through each port, but that's where the kind of similarities ended. There was me and one other guy from the super squad shot it, or I think it was a couple people, maybe like 3 people shot it from the tunnel. What I mean by is way back here in the back is there are 2 steel and 3 activators. There is a pop out, a bobber, and a swinger. And 15 yards ish down from this fault line, there is another box which you could run to and shoot everything from maybe 10 yards away. So it was kind of preference on if you think you could get up out of this squat quickly, run all the way down there and shoot everything, or if you wanted to stay in this kneeling position or stand up in between rungs or something like that. I was comfortable shooting the distance. I had watched the activators and I didn't think they were too incredibly fast. So I thought I was confident enough to be able to, hey, I think I can do this. Let me try it. The main thing though that I watched a lot of people struggle on was off the get-go was throwing way too many makeups on these steels. I think there's 5 steel with 2 small poppers behind 2 big ones, so you had to shoot all of them and then wait for them to fall and then shoot the other 2 or 3 or something like that. Lots of people would run into this corner and just start throwing makeups left and right, and so I was like, I can't do that. Like, I have to be efficient in it. Ran up to the position, went 1 for 1 on the steel, thankfully. Drop stepped out of the position as much as I could. I was calling each shot, and so as soon as I called my last shot, I drop stepped out of there instead of waiting for the visual cue of the popper to go down. Drop step out of there, run to the next position, and then I really didn't want to come to this position and make a full hard stop. This is, I think, 2 open paper, or open and a slasher, lots of A-zone visible, and so I actually elected to shoot coming in position as I'm breaking it down, have a small hesitation or a gap, like a pause as I'm shooting. I think it was a partial. I think it was a slasher or something. Shoot those 2 and immediately drop a reload, run into this port. Reloading at this point, I think, gave me 2 or 3 extra makeups. So it was a little risky for sure, especially because I was electing to shoot at the far distance. But I went into the tunnel knowing that I only had a couple shots, and so I really had good sight pictures and crisp dots on the targets after that point. So hesitation, then reload. Dropped in here, shot the 3, and full squat. Kind of just lean in to get the position on seeing everything. Come into this next one. Now I notice how I dropped my left knee on this one, and I'm also kind of back from this port favoring this right side. That is because as soon as I get done with this last target, I'm immediately transitioning over to this, one of these steel. I think I shoot the left one first. I go left, right, bobber, or no, I go left, right, 2 on the bobber, 1 on the swinger, 1 on the stationary, 1 on the swinger, 1 on the stationary. So it was a little back and forth, but the swinger came out a little bit faster than I expected, and so I was only able to throw 1 shot at it on its first pass. And so I was like, well, instead of waiting on it, let me transition over here, throw 1 shot at least, come back to the swingers, throw another shot, throw back to the stationary, and end it. I think I had a delta on the swinger, I believe. I think it was an alpha delta, alpha Charlie, and then 2 alpha on here. So definitely not displeased with the accuracy because I was electing to shoot it from a kneeling position so far back. And the time was the biggest thing. This was about 2 seconds faster than anybody else who shot this one. Me, I got a first overall on this stage. Me and the guy who came in second place, Nils, were the only two, or I think one of the only two, who elected to shoot it from the tunnel. Everybody else elected to run all the way down and shoot everything. And we had the 2 fastest times for sure on it. Mine was 2 seconds faster. His was like right there, a couple tenths faster than Max, who had ran up all the way in it. But it just came down to preference, honestly. If you could shoot it quick from a knee, then I would say do it. But if you were more of a conservative shooter and you felt like you couldn't get away with the accuracy from this distance, from this position, then I would say run down to the end. But at the end of the day, it came down to personal preference, what you felt like you could get away with, what you've been practicing, because you don't want to come into nationals and start trying stuff that you had never practiced before. Like you want to come in and you want to rest on the practice and the foundations that you've been putting on all year long. You don't got to come out here and do something crazy. But overall, it was a great stage. It was very, very nice to end day one with a win because the rest of day one had not gone to par and not what I wanted it to be. But overall, I was happy with this stage, definitely.